Welcome back to Legends Speak English. Today we have an inspiring story about a man who spent 27 years in prison, but still became one of the most loved and respected leaders in the world. Do you think you can guess who it is? Listen carefully to the clues, and by the end of the video, you'll find out if you were right. Plus, we'll break down some important English words and phrases to help you improve your skills. Let's get started. Early life. I was born in 1918 in a small village called Mvezo, South Africa. My family was part of the Royal Thembu tribe, but even though we were important in our community, life was simple. As a child, I loved listening to the elders tell stories about our people's struggles and history. These stories taught me about bravery and justice. But at the time, I had no idea that I would one day become a part of history myself. Do you have any guesses yet? Write them in the comments. Education and early career. When I grew older, I attended the University of Fort Hare, the only university for black students in South Africa at that time. But I didn't finish my degree there. Why? Because I stood up against unfair rules at the school and was expelled. I moved to Johannesburg, where I saw how badly black people were treated compared to white people. I decided to become a lawyer to help those who were suffering under the unfair system called apartheid. Apartheid was a system that separated people based on their race. Black South Africans didn't have the same rights as white South Africans. They couldn't vote, they couldn't live in certain areas, and they were often treated very badly. I knew I had to do something to change this. The fight against apartheid. I joined the African National Congress, ANC, and helped organize peaceful protests and demonstrations. But the government didn't like that. They saw me as a threat and arrested me multiple times. Eventually, they charged me with trying to overthrow the government and sentenced me to life in prison. I was sent to Robben Island, a prison off the coast of South Africa. I was locked away for 27 years. Life in prison was very hard. I was forced to do difficult labor, like breaking rocks in the hot sun. But even in prison, I never lost hope. I kept fighting for freedom in my heart. I believe that one day, South Africa will be free. Life in prison and global support. Even though I was in prison, people all around the world started to hear my story. They began to protest against the South African government and demanded my release. For many years, the government refused. But eventually they realized they couldn't keep me locked away forever. After 27 long years, I was finally released in 1990. But instead of being angry, I chose a different path: forgiveness. I knew that if we wanted peace in South Africa, we had to work together, no matter our skin color. Becoming president. In 1994, just 4 years after I was released from prison, something amazing happened. I became the first black president of South Africa. I was 76 years old at the time. As president, I worked hard to unite the country. I wanted to make sure that South Africa was a place where everyone, no matter their race, had equal rights and opportunities. One of my proudest moments was the 1995 Rugby World Cup. Rugby was a sport mostly loved by white South Africans, but I saw it as a chance to bring people together. I wore the South African rugby team's jersey and cheered for them, showing the world that South Africa was ready to move forward as one nation. Legacy and final clues. I became a symbol of peace, forgiveness, and hope. Even after I stepped down, as president, I continued to fight for justice around the world. I received over 250 awards, including the Nobel Peace Prize. People everywhere still remember me as a man who chose love over hate, even after all the suffering I went through. So, who am I? If you guessed Nelson Mandela, you're absolutely right. Mandela taught the world about courage, patience, and forgiveness. Language learning section. Repeat and learn. Now let's practice speaking. I will read 5 important sentences from today's story. Listen carefully and repeat after me. Apartheid was a system that separated people based on their race. I was sentenced to life in prison for fighting for freedom. After 27 years, I chose forgiveness instead of revenge. I became the first black president of South Africa in 1994. Nelson Mandela believed in unity, peace, and hope. Vocabulary breakdown. Now, let's take a moment to learn some important English words from Mandela's story. Here are 3 key words from today's story. Apartheid, a system where people were treated unfairly based on their race. Forgiveness, choosing not to be angry at someone who hurt you. Freedom, the right to live your life the way you want, without unfair restrictions. Try using these words in your own sentences in the comments below. Thanks for watching Legends Speak English. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next video. Who should we feature next? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Suggest a historical figure or legendary leader, and your idea might be highlighted in our next episode.